Hello again, making slow progress on the video backlog, but here we go. We were up and out early for a long day on the boat with Jeff and Joe. Our aim of the day, sharks. A little healthier than this one, mind. Off we set. Our faithful vessel, the Free Radical, was launched without issue, and with the whale shark tagging team leading the way, we set off southwards along the coast, hoping to spot some. After a couple of hours of little luck, we decided to start small and work our way back up, and stopped off at the Mangroves, a well-known shark nursery. After a short wade, we came across a fair few lemon shark pups and a whole lot of stingrays lying in the shallows just below the sand. We then got news that the research team had spotted a fair few sharks, so we sped off in that direction, stopping only for what we initially thought was a tiger shark, but turned out, after a peek underwater, to be a really cool, large guitar shark. With spotter planes overhead, we narrowed in, and just like that, the huge fish was sat swimming along centimeters from the surface. These gentle giants were absolutely amazing to witness, and a big step up for Holly, swimming with such large animals out in deep blue water. We swam with them for a good couple of hours, filling our SD cards with footage. And just to be sure we got the shot, we swam next to them, in front of them, behind them, under them, even above them, and really had them all to ourselves. I want to say a big thank you to Jeff and Joe for taking us along with them. If you want to see some way better underwater videography, check out Jeff Taylor's YouTube. I'll leave a link in the description. After saying bye to the big sharks and a quick bite to eat, we head out to some coral bommies in search of the elusive leopard shark. Although we didn't get a leopard shark this time, we did see a hawksbill sea turtle munching down on some coral and what we think was a good-sized grey reef shark. After weighing anchor, we head home, winching the boat back onto the trailer and enjoying a celebratory barbecue after a successful day. Keeping up the pace of the previous day, we were up and out early to explore a newly discovered cave, and after finding the entrance, we made our way in. Looking around, there were plenty of little bats flying all over, and in one corner was a particularly well-fed looking python, perched up on one of the ledges high up on the wall. After a cycle home and a siesta, we head out in the late afternoon to try and spot some dugongs and try our luck squidding. Kitted out with the appropriate fishing headwear, we started trawling our lines, and just like that, we came across a dugong, checking us out from a distance. These shy creatures never really got close enough for us to get a good shot, but were always coming up for air just in the corner of our eyes as we had our hands full of fishing gear. Speaking of, as the afternoon turned to evening, the squid came out to play, and we ended up catching 4 good-sized squid and called it a day. As it was a Friday evening, however, rather than cook them, we head to a local brewery, Whalebone, for their pizza night and to enjoy the live music. The next morning, we got into more of the secret sights of Exmouth, starting early with some caves featuring freshwater springs used by the first settlers and Aboriginal tribes of the area. Further down the road, we explored a fossilized reef and found a megalodon tooth along with plenty of fossilized corals. We also peered down an old abandoned well and spotted a couple of rare eyeless fish that live in the subterranean waterways. On the quest for more fish, we stopped for a snorkeling session at Turquoise Bay and were spoiled by shoals of reef fish, a rather large potato cod, and a sleepy little green sea turtle. Our next stop was back at South Mandu, where we had missed the upside-down jellyfish. These alien-looking creatures sit on the bottom of the rock pool, getting their nutrients from both photosynthesis and filter feeding, and are doing well as they had completely covered the bottom of the pool. Without catching a break, we were back in the car and on our way to our furthest stop back down at Yardie Creek. Suited up, we hit the water, paddling down the gorge in search of the elusive black-flanked rock wallabies. On the way down, we stopped to admire some familiar faces of a colony of flying fox fruit bats that had set up in the mangrove forest on the creek's bank. As we moved down the creek, we had the eerie feeling that we were being watched from the cliff faces. Ever so often, it seemed like the rocks had eyes. Out of the corner of our eyes, there was always something moving. And once we got to the end of the creek, with nowhere left to go, they made themselves known.
Who dares paddle in our creek?
Yeah, okay, these guys are super cute. And for whatever reason, this little mama was really unfazed by us and let us watch her while she took the time to tend to the little one and then give herself a bit of a clean before it was time to say goodbye and head back down the creek. With returning ospreys overhead, finding their nests in the cliff faces, we slowly made our way back to the car to load up the canoes before we head to our penultimate stop at the mangroves for a wade. But it wasn't until we got back to the car that we came across a bold pair of dingoes walking around unfazed in the fading light. Up close and personal, although a little mangy, they came by to check us out before disappearing into the bush. After that, we made our way to the final stop for beers and the sunset to round off an action-packed day on the peninsula, not before heading back for some beautifully cooked, fresh-ish squid, if I do say so myself. The next morning, we gave ourselves a day to relax at Lakeside and meet up with some friends from Shelter in Bustleton. We enjoyed some great snorkeling with more sharks and turtles, shoals of barracuda, and a giant groper. That evening, to Holly's excitement, we visited the wreck of the Mildura, a Japanese merchant vessel that wrecked itself, saving another from the reef. We also got a closer look at the ultra-low frequency station, sporting a 387-meter central tower. That evening, we said a massive thank you to Jeff and Joe and turned around on the long journey back towards Melbourne. The next morning, a flock of spinifex, or as they're better known, Mohican pigeons, Tom and Jerry'd their way around us before we hit the road again, making our way inland toward the red dirt and dust of the Pilbara. After a morning of driving, we arrived at Chila Plains Station, stopping on the way to camp for a quick walk to take in the massive walls of iron-rich rock that make up this dramatic landscape. A short stop for firewood later, we arrived at camp next to a dried-up creek bed, and as it was early in the day, head off for a walk to explore around the camp. Our first find, a bush full of hatching butterflies. As we wandered further up the creek, we made our way to a rock face that usually is the waterfall into mussel pools. Before I could stop her, Holly was up the rock face like the Outback's answer to Spider-Man, clambering up to take in the views. Heading back to camp, we got the fire started, chowed down on some watermelon and beers, and got cooking, where I was interrupted by another little camp friend working as my sous chef. If Holly gets to be Spider-Man, I'm the Outback Ratatouille. As evening fell, we enjoyed the sunset and got ready for our journey tomorrow as we venture deeper into the Pilbara.